Jan Koum was not born into noise. He was born into caution, into a place where words were not harmless and questions were not curious. He was born in 1976 in a small town near Kiev, Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union. And to understand his life, you must understand this first. In that world, silence was not personality. Silence was strategy. Phones were tapped, mail was opened, neighbors listened. You learned early that speaking freely was not brave, it was dangerous. Children absorbed this without explanation. Jan didn't grow up being told to express himself. He grew up learning when not to. His family was poor, not poetically poor, not inspirational poor, just limited. Limited choices, limited safety, limited future. His father worked hard and disappeared early from his life. His mother carried responsibility without softness. There was no mythology of dreams in that household. No one asked John what he wanted to be, because wanting was irrelevant. Survival was the curriculum. He learned to observe, to listen more than speak, to notice systems rather than people, how things worked, how things broke, why rules existed, and who they protected. The Soviet system promised equality but delivered restriction, queues for food, shared frustration, unspoken fear. The government didn't need to shout, its presence was implied, and children like Jan internalized something important. When the environment is hostile, you don't waste energy performing, you conserve it. This is where his silence came from, not shyness, not insecurity, adaptation, pause, because later in life, people would misunderstand this. They would call him introverted, atypical, socially distant, but silence was never absence, it was discipline. As the Soviet Union began to crack, life didn't improve overnight. Instability increased, scarcity sharpened. His mother made a decision that would fracture everything familiar. She chose to leave, not because America was glamorous, but because staying felt terminal. They didn't leave with confidence, they left with urgency. In 1992, Jan Koum arrived in the United States. He was 16, and he arrived carrying almost nothing. No English fluency, no social footing, no understanding of the culture, and $7. That number gets repeated often, $7. People say it like a symbol, but symbols don't capture the reality. $7 is not hope. $7 is calculation. What can I afford today? What must wait? What cannot fail? They settled in Mountain View, California, not Silicon Valley as mythology, Silicon Valley as survival. They lived on government assistance, food stamps, public aid. His mother worked relentlessly. Jan watched, not with resentment, with absorption. He didn't complain. Complaining assumes someone is listening. Instead, he adapted. He enrolled in high school, struggled with language, struggled with belonging. He didn't try to fit in. He didn't try to stand out. He stayed invisible. Invisibility for him felt familiar and safe. But invisibility also creates space. Space to observe systems without distraction. Space to learn without performance. Jan discovered computers not as passion, but as refuge. A machine did not care where you were born. It did not judge your accent. It responded only to logic. Input, output, cause, effect. For someone raised in uncertainty, this clarity was intoxicating. He spent hours teaching himself, not chasing trends, not building startups, just understanding how networks worked, how code behaved, how systems scaled. He didn't talk about it. He didn't announce progress. He didn't brand himself as talent. He learned quietly, because quiet learning does not require permission. Pause here, because this matters. Before WhatsApp, before Yahoo, before billions. There was a boy who learned early that survival favors those who don't waste energy explaining themselves. A boy who understood that endurance is quieter than ambition. And this silence, this trained restraint, would later shape one of the most used communication tools on earth. Irony doesn't announce itself, it waits. People love to say immigration is opportunity. They say it with distance, with comfort. They forget the first phase, disorientation. When John arrived in America, nothing made sense. Not the language, not the social cues, not the pace. He wasn't inspired, he was overwhelmed. The streets looked clean. The supermarkets looked abundant, but abundance without access feels like mockery. He understood enough English to follow instructions, not enough to belong. At school, he was the quiet foreign kid, not bullied, ignored, which in some ways was worse. He didn't attempt reinvention. Reinvention assumes choice. He focused on function, how to get through the day, how to avoid mistakes, how not to draw attention. At home, money was discussed in fragments, not arguments, calculations, what could be delayed, what could not. Food stamps were not temporary in his mind. They were reality. He watched his mother stand in lines with dignity and exhaustion. She did not explain it away. She endured. Jan learned something there. Pride is expensive, and silence is cheaper. He took small jobs, cleaning, stocking shelves, work that required reliability, not conversation, work that rewarded showing up instead of speaking up. School continued. So did isolation. He didn't romanticize struggle. He simply noted patterns. People who talked confidently often had no plan. People who stayed quiet often did the work. He began spending more time with computers, not because someone told him to, because computers didn't ask questions. They didn't notice poverty. They didn't register accent. They responded only to accuracy. Mistakes were punished immediately. Success was measurable. This appealed to him deeply. He taught himself networking basics, read manuals, broke things, fixed them. No applause, no mentors, just repetition. His world narrowed. School, work, computer. He didn't date, didn't socialize, not from fear, from focus. Focus born of necessity. When resources are limited, distraction becomes dangerous. Jan didn't see this as sacrifice. It was just logic. He eventually enrolled in college, San Jose State University, not with a sense of arrival, with continuation. He studied computer science, not because it was fashionable, because it made sense. He needed a skill that spoke for itself. But life did not smooth out. His mother became ill, cancer, the family balance collapsed. Jan dropped out of college to care for her. This wasn't framed as heroism. It was duty. He worked nights as a security guard at Yahoo. The job was simple. Watch screens, walk halls, stay alert. He brought books, manuals. He studied during shifts, learning while others slept. He wasn't networking at Yahoo. He wasn't dreaming of tech fame. He was learning infrastructure from the inside, how systems stayed online, how downtime was avoided, how scale was handled quietly. He observed engineers, not their charisma, their competence. He noticed something important. The best systems were invisible when working. No pop-ups, no noise, just reliability. That idea stayed with him, silently. His mother eventually passed away. Loss did not break him loudly. It compressed him. Responsibility increased, freedom decreased, but clarity sharpened. There was no backup plan, no safety net. So he did what he had always done. He stayed quiet. He kept working. He kept learning. Pause. This is not the moment where passion ignites. This is the moment where endurance hardens. And endurance, when combined with skill, becomes leverage. From here, Jan's life begins to intersect with the tech world, not as a disruptor, as a stabilizer. Hunger is an efficient teacher. It does not inspire, it eliminates. When Jan was younger, he thought hunger meant empty shelves. Later, he learned hunger also means limited options. After his mother's illness and eventual passing, there was no fallback, no relative to call, no savings to lean on. The margin disappeared. Jan lived carefully, not frugally, yet precisely. Every expense was evaluated, not emotionally, mathematically. He didn't complain about being broke. Complaints require an audience. He had no interest in sympathy. He focused on what moved the needle, skill, not credentials, not reputation, capability. He worked, he learned, he repeated. Security shifts at Yahoo gave him access to something more valuable than pay, exposure. He saw how systems behaved under load, how engineers diagnosed problems, how quiet competence kept companies alive. He noticed that the most important work was rarely celebrated. It just prevented failure. This appealed to him. Jan did not want to be admired. He wanted things to work. Food stamps didn't offend him. They informed him. They reminded him that dependency is fragile. So he built independence in the only currency he trusted. Technical depth. He read relentlessly. Not blogs, manuals, not trends, fundamentals, networking protocols. System reliability, latency, words most people skip. He didn't chase Silicon Valley mythology. No startup pitches, no motivational talk. He didn't hustle, he prepared. At Yahoo, he eventually moved from security into engineering, not because he asked loudly, because his competence became undeniable. He fixed things others avoided. He handled infrastructure others didn't want to touch. This earned him trust, not attention. Trust compounds quietly. During this time, Jan's social life remained minimal, not lonely, contained. He didn't crave validation. Validation feels dangerous when you've seen how quickly it disappears. He invested in consistency. Show up, solve the problem, leave no trace. he began to notice something else. The internet was getting louder. More ads, more tracking, more intrusion. Products were designed to capture attention, not respect it. This bothered him, not philosophically, personally, because he remembered what surveillance felt like. He remembered living under systems that listened too closely. He disliked the idea of being monitored for profit. He didn't rant about it. He stored it. Years later, that discomfort would become design. But for now, it remained unspoken. Jan had failed before without noticing. Projects that went nowhere. Ideas that never left his laptop. He didn't label them failures. They were exercises. When something didn't work, he didn't dramatize. He adjusted. Hunger does not allow ego. It doesn't allow indulgence. It strips you down to efficiency. Jan didn't become sharp because he was gifted. He became sharp because dullness was unaffordable. Pause. This is important. He wasn't chasing success. He was avoiding fragility. And avoiding fragility is a powerful motivator. From here, Jan's life enters a phase where he is inside the system but still not seen. The Yahoo years, comfortable enough to breathe, uncomfortable enough to stay alert. Working at Yahoo changed Jan's life, not dramatically, structurally. It gave him stability, a steady income, predictable rhythm, access to large-scale systems. But it did not give him identity. He didn't introduce himself as a Yahoo engineer with pride. Titles were functional, nothing more. Inside the company, he worked on infrastructure, back-end systems, the parts users never see. When things worked, no one noticed. When they failed, everyone complained. This sweeted him. He didn't seek credit, he sought reliability. Jan watched Silicon Valley from within, not as a participant in its culture, as an observer of its behavior. He noticed how companies grew by becoming louder, more features, more ads, more notifications. Growth was celebrated, restraint was not. This disturbed him, because growth without discipline resembled the systems he had escaped, systems that collected data without consent, systems that valued control over dignity. He didn't make speeches about this, he internalized it. He noticed how communication tools evolved. Email grew cluttered, messaging became noisy, people weren't connecting, they were being interrupted. Jan believed communication should be quiet, reliable, unintrusive. Something that delivered information and then disappeared. This belief didn't come from design trends, it came from lived experience. At Yahoo, he met Brian Acton, another engineer. Not flashy, not loud. They worked together, shared frustrations, shared values. Neither of them fit the Silicon Valley stereotype. They didn't pitch themselves constantly. They didn't romanticize startups. They talked about work, about systems, about what annoyed them. This mattered, because alignment doesn't announce itself, it reveals itself over time. After nearly a decade at Yahoo, Jan left, not in rebellion, in readiness. He had saved enough money to buy time. Time to think, time to build. No rush. He didn't leave with a startup idea. He left with standards, standards shaped by scarcity. Don't waste resources. Don't disrespect users. Don't build noise. Jan and Brian began experimenting, small projects, ideas that failed quietly. No press, no funding rounds. Failure didn't scare him. He had been poor before. He had been invisible before. He had survived systems collapsing. This was manageable. Then in 2009, something shifted. Apple introduced push notifications. Suddenly, phones could alert users without opening an app. Jan noticed this immediately, not as a feature, as a primitive, a building block. He thought about presence, about status, about letting people know you were reachable without interruption. He registered a name, WhatsApp, what's up? A question that didn't demand an answer, a phrase that could remain open. At first, the app was unimpressive, buggy, unstable. It crashed constantly. Users complained. Most founders would panic. Jan listened. Silently, he fixed things. Again and again. He wasn't chasing virality. He was chasing dependability. Pause. This is the moment where his past begins to surface. Surveillance aversion, respect for privacy, hatred of noise. And all of it quietly shaping a product. From here, failure will intensify. Money will thin. The app will nearly die, and silence will be tested. Rejection usually arrives with noise, anger, doubt, the urge to explain. For Jan Koum, rejection arrived quietly. In 2009, after leaving Yahoo, he applied for a job at Facebook. So did Brian Acton. Both were rejected. No dramatic meeting, no heated conversation, just a no. For many people, that moment becomes a story, a grievance, a turning point wrapped in resentment. For Jan, it was information. Facebook wasn't a destination, it was a signal. He didn't post about it, didn't joke about it publicly. He didn't turn it into fuel. He turned back to work because Jan never expected institutions to validate him. He had grown up in a world where institutions watched, controlled, and discarded people without apology. Being rejected by a company did not threaten his identity. He never tied his worth to acceptance. At that moment, WhatsApp barely existed. The app had launched with a simple idea: status messages, available, busy, at the gym. That was it. No chat, no media, just presence. But the app kept crashing. Users complained. Apple's App Store rankings dipped, money drained. Jan had invested his savings. Brian was struggling financially. There were moments when quitting felt reasonable. Not dramatic, logical. But Jan did not rush decisions. He watched user behavior, listened to feedback, not surveys, patterns. He noticed something. People were using status as communication, updating messages to send signals. I landed safely. Running late, not broadcasts, signals. So he adjusted. He added messaging, simple, direct, no ads, no gimmicks. Messages should arrive, that's it. No algorithm deciding importance, no interference. WhatsApp grew slowly, then steadily. Word of mouth, friends inviting friends. Not because it was exciting, because it worked. Still, money was tight. Servers cost real dollars. Growth did not equal profit. Jan hated the idea of ads. He hated the idea of interrupting conversations. He hated the idea of mining personal data. This wasn't branding, it was memory. He remembered phones being tapped. He remembered silence as safety. He believed communication should belong to the people using it, not the platform hosting it. Investors approached. Some walked away. Too idealistic, no monetization, unclear strategy. Jan listened politely. He did not argue, he simply continued. Because he wasn't trying to convince anyone. He was building the product he wanted to exist. That conviction was quiet, not loud enough to sell, strong enough to endure. Pause. This is where most stories inject defiance. Watch me prove them wrong. That wasn't Jan. He didn't want to prove anything. He wanted to finish something. From here, WhatsApp will face its hardest pressure. Scaling, global attention, and the risk of becoming exactly what it was built to resist. Failure did not arrive once, it arrived in layers. Small miscalculations, technical breakdowns, moments when progress stalled without explanation. WhatsApp did not feel like momentum, it felt like maintenance. Servers struggled, messages delayed. Infrastructure costs climbed faster than comfort. There was no revenue stream, no safety cushion. Jan did not panic. Panic is expensive. He returned to fundamentals. What is essential? What is noise? Every feature was questioned. If it didn't improve reliability, it didn't belong. If it distracted from communication, it was removed. This discipline confused people. Competitors added stickers, filters, games. Jan removed. Simplicity was not aesthetic, it was moral. He believed tools should disappear once they served their purpose. He refused growth tactics that compromised trust. No ads, no tracking, no selling user data. That decision cost him. Investors hesitated. Opportunities passed. But Jan understood something most founders don't. Trust compounds slower than attention, but it lasts longer. The team remained small. Engineers worked long hours. Not for stock hype, for stability. WhatsApp outages were treated seriously. Every failure was investigated. Root causes documented. Fixes implemented quietly. No apologies campaigns, just correction. Jan rarely spoke publicly. Not because he lacked opinions, because he didn't believe products should require explanation. If it worked, that was the explanation. If it failed, that was the problem. There were moments when WhatsApp nearly collapsed. User growth stressed infrastructure, costs ballooned, pressure increased. Jan could have pivoted, could have added monetization, could have compromised. He didn't, not stubbornly, intentionally, because he had lived under systems that promised convenience in exchange for control. He knew the cost. He refused to recreate it. Instead, he charged a small annual fee, $1, enough to support servers, not enough to exploit users. People paid, not enthusiastically, gratefully, because it respected them. WhatsApp crossed borders, countries with unstable networks, regions with limited infrastructure. It worked there because it was light, efficient, reliable. Jan did not celebrate milestones. User counts meant nothing without trust. Millions came, then hundreds of millions. Still no press tour, still no noise. Jan remained the same, quiet, observant, relentless. Pause. This part matters Because success here was not driven by charisma, it was driven by refusal. Refusal to monetize attention, refusal to betray memory, refusal to forget what silence once protected. From here, WhatsApp becomes unavoidable, and the world begins to notice the quiet company that never asked to be watched. Most communication tools want more from you. More attention, more time, more data. WhatsApp wanted less noise, less interruption, less presence. This wasn't minimalism as style, it was restraint as principle. Jan believed communication should deliver meaning and then disappear. No banners, no autoplay, no manipulation, just delivery. This philosophy came directly from his childhood. He had lived in a system where communication was monitored, where privacy was not assumed, where silence protected families. So when he built WhatsApp, privacy was not a feature, it was the foundation. Messages were not scanned, metadata was minimized, data retention was avoided. WhatsApp did not want to know its users, it wanted to serve them. This confused the industry. Why refuse free revenue? Why reject ads? Why not leverage data? Jan had seen what happens when systems observe too much. He had escaped one surveillance culture. He would not recreate another. WhatsApp scaled globally because it respected constraints. Low bandwidth, old phones, unstable networks. It worked anyway because it was designed for reliability, not indulgence. Emerging markets adopted it rapidly, not because of marketing, because it solved real problems. Families across borders, migrant workers, people who needed connection without cost or complexity. WhatsApp became infrastructure, invisible until it wasn't there. That invisibility was intentional. Jan didn't want users to think about WhatsApp. He wanted them to think about each other. This runs against Silicon Valley instincts. Most founders want to be noticed. Jan wanted to disappear. The irony grew. The quieter the product became, the louder its adoption. Governments noticed. Corporations noticed. Facebook noticed. The same company that once rejected him now wanted what he had built. But Jan was cautious. He had seen power concentrate. He had seen ideals dissolve under scale. If WhatsApp was to join a larger system, its principles had to survive. Negotiations began, not from desperation, from leverage earned through patience. Jan was not dazzled by valuation. He was focused on guarantees, privacy, independence, user respect. These were non-negotiable because he wasn't selling a company. He was protecting a philosophy. Pause. This is the moment where silence meets power, where a man who never performed is suddenly at the center, not because he demanded it, because he endured long enough for the world to catch up. From here, the story reaches its public peak, the acquisition, the billions, and the test of whether quiet endurance can survive global attention. When Facebook acquired WhatsApp in 2014, the number stunned the world, $19 billion. Headlines exploded, analysts speculated, commentators debated. Jan Koum remained quiet. He did not celebrate publicly. He did not tour studios. He did not posture. Because money, to him, was never a scoreboard. It was insulation, protection from fragility. After decades of scarcity, financial security arrived, not as triumph, as relief. Jan joined Facebook's board, not as a victory lap, as a safeguard. He believed his presence could preserve WhatsApp's principles from the inside. For a while it worked. End-to-end encryption was introduced, a commitment to privacy made explicit. Jan believed this was the correct evolution. But tension grew. Facebook's incentives differed. Data integration, monetization pressure, business alignment. Jan did not shout, he did not leak, he did not posture, he disagreed quietly, firmly. When compromise threatened the core values he had protected, he chose departure. In 2018, Jan left Facebook. No dramatic statements, no exposés, just a sentence. I'm moving on. People were surprised. Why walk away from power? Because Jan never chased power, he chased autonomy. Money did not change his habits. He lived modestly. He gave generously. He donated millions to causes related to immigrants, education, and civil liberties. Not performatively, intentionally. Because he remembered being dependent. He remembered lines. He remembered invisibility. Jan did not reinvent himself as a public intellectual. He did not brand wisdom. He returned to quiet, collecting Porsches, exploring interests privately, choosing presence over influence. Pause. This matters because the story is not about becoming a billionaire. It is about remaining intact. Most people fear failure. Jan feared corruption of values. He had survived systems that eroded dignity. He would not assist another. From here, the story resolves, not with celebration, with meaning. The Jean Kum story is often told as a tale of escape, from poverty, from rejection, from invisibility. But that framing misses the point. He did not escape who he was. He carried it forward. The silence he learned as a child did not disappear with success. It matured. It became discernment. In a world that rewards volume, Jean proved something uncomfortable. You don't have to announce yourself to matter. You don't have to explain your pain to justify your place. You don't have to turn every struggle into a speech. Endurance does not need an audience. Jean's life teaches a quiet lesson. Most people burn energy trying to be seen. He conserved energy to build something that worked. While others optimized for attention, he optimized for trust. While others chased growth, he protected integrity. That choice is rarely praised because it's not exciting. It doesn't trend. It doesn't convert easily into slogans, but it lasts. Jean did not believe the world owed him opportunity, so he never felt betrayed when it withheld approval. He believed only in responsibility. Responsibility to users, responsibility to systems, responsibility to memory. The memory of hunger, of surveillance, of standing in line without explanation. Those memories did not weaken him. They anchored him. And anchoring matters when success tries to move you away from yourself. If you are listening to this and your life feels quiet, not celebrated, not validated, not noticed, understand this. Silence is not absence. It is often preparation. You may not be falling behind. You may be accumulating skill, judgment, restraint. These do not announce themselves. They reveal their value later, when noise collapses, when shortcuts fail, when trust becomes the only currency that still holds. Jean Kum did not build WhatsApp to become rich. He built it because he knew what it meant to be unheard, and he refused to create another system that exploited that vulnerability. So don't ask yourself why your journey feels slow. Ask yourself what it is protecting you from. Because sometimes the quiet road is not the long way. It is the durable one. Long pause. Breathe. This was EP8, Immigrant with 7 failed businesses, then a billionaire. Not a story about money, a story about restraint, a story about endurance that never raised its voice and changed the world anyway.